Welcome to Thursday Thoughts, your weekly dose of real, honest conversation on all things personal growth. These are the chats Lucy and I love having every week over on Instagram. They're unfiltered, unedited, and always rooted in practical tools and a dose of inspiration. Let's dive in.
Okay, so here we are for the second week in a row doing what is normally our Instagram live. We're doing it on Zoom because for some reason Polly and I are having major issues with we can't seem to accept each other onto each other's lives, which is really, really annoying. Hopefully it's going to resolve. But anyway, we've jumped onto Zoom. We're just going to do a quick one today. We're recording this on a Tuesday because we thought we'd give it another go because it hadn't worked for Monday Motivation yesterday. But basically the thing that I came, first of all, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, love. So this is so random, right? And so basically so you and I came up with this literally about half an hour before we were supposed to go live yesterday morning. And it was a very random one that just came to me because yesterday morning I'd listened on my walk. I'd listened to Mel Robbins' Monday episode, as I so often do. And she was talking about fun. But actually, this might not be the conversation that you were expecting because whilst, as you know, I adore Mel Robbins. I think she's absolutely wonderful. And I completely agree with the concept that we need more fun. And this is essentially what she was talking about. She was talking about, we all need more fun in our lives. Obviously, things are pretty dark in the world and we need more fun. We need more laughter. But the thing that kind of slightly annoyed me about this episode is that quite a lot of it was the premise was that she had been on this golfing weekend with some very good friends of hers, and they'd gone in fancy dress. So Mel was talking all about, and this is where you and I know we come from completely opposite ends of the spectrum, which is why I thought this would be quite amusing, but Mel was basically saying one of her main things was, just like wear the pink glasses, wear the outfit, go, get in fancy dress to have some fun. And it kind of slightly triggered me because much as I love having fun as much as the next person, I do not like fancy dress, full stop. And I think it's one of those things that people either love it or they hate it. And so I wanted to just kick this conversation off by saying that fun does not have to look the same for everybody. I actually did a mini-sode on this ages ago because I think sometimes we can feel this pressure that fun has to look this kind of traditional sort of, quote, classic way where, oh, yes, everyone dresses up in fancy dress and that is fun. And it's not necessarily the case. And she also added that, I can't remember exactly what she said, but basically she was talking about the fact that, just stop caring about what other people think and, wear the fancy dress outfit. And I was thinking, even if there wasn't a bone left in my body that gave a flying fuck what anyone thought, I still wouldn't get into fancy dress. So I just thought it was an interesting conversation about the fact that fun doesn't necessarily look how we are led to believe it is supposed to look. It doesn't have to be a great big room full of people dressed up in fancy dress. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be an afternoon in the pub drinking with your mates. It can be whatever fun is for you. But obviously, again, you and I have very different opinions of this because I know that you love your fancy dress. And it's so funny how we are completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yes, so because actually I listened to that. I have listened to that
did
episode.
you?
I've listened to episode, and I kind of would agree with Mel on quite a lot of what she had to say. Because for me, I mean, I grew up in a house where fancy dress was always a thing. My dad has always been a great lover of getting dressed up, and I just love going to a party where there is a theme because it breaks the ice. It kind of nobody's too cool for school and everyone can be really silly. And it just is for me, it's just that silliness of it. It's kind of being not taking yourself too seriously. And I know for you, it's like your absolute idea of nightmare. And I totally get that. And I totally accept that as well. But for me, I like it because it is really just silliness and it's like
Yeah.
not giving a flying fuck really about what you look like or or anything like that. And generally speaking, it does, if you're at a party or wherever you are, it does bring people out of their shells and it breaks the ice and it
Yeah.
allows people to just be a little bit more silly
Yeah.
and not take themselves too seriously. And that is why I like it.
Yeah.
But I do accept there are friends of mine I have made dress up to my parties, and I know that they just don't like fancy dress. They just don't like it.
Mm.
But a couple of them I have actually turned, and now they actually quite like it. But there are still some who are like, no, I'm sorry, no fancy dress, no
Well, do
dressing up.
you know, it's funny though, because I can totally see why you love it. And I can totally see why I absolutely take your points. But one thing I do want to sort of add is that I can be as silly as the next person. Like, I 100%. I love those kind of ridiculous moments where you're with friends and you're just, oh God, the screen, we just switched sides of the screen. That's very strange. But yeah, I absolutely love being silly with friends and just being really immature and really juvenile and mucking around and all of that. But I will say that I can do that anyway without
Mhm.
having to dress up in
Yeah.
fancy dress. Like I can be silly and ridiculous and not take myself seriously without having to get into fancy dress. But anyway, I completely hear you. And I don't know why I have such a thing about it. Like I don't know why, but it's just one of those things. I'm like, ugh, just oh my God, I can't bear it. But also I think it's part of a wider conversation about fun in
Yeah.
general. Because I'm suddenly thinking, what are we going to label this? Fancy dress or fun?
Fun.
Thursday thoughts, fun, or Thursday thoughts, fancy dress. People will be like, what? But no, I do think it is part of a wider conversation about what fun is, quote, supposed to look like. And, you know, I know that some of the things that I think are fun are not everybody else's idea of fun. And many of the things that a lot of other people think are fun are not my idea of fun. And I wonder, well, actually, you and I are in an interesting case study because I think both of us can be in many ways quite extroverted. But, you know, so I think there is an argument to say that it can partly be to do with whether you are more extroverted or more introverted. But having said that, I can be the life and soul of the party, yet I consider myself to be a total
Mm.
introvert. But put me in a party and I'm very loud and very chatty and very sociable, and I can be very good in those kind of situations. However, my idea of fun, like if I was given the choice between a massive party and a really intimate sitting round with like one best girlfriend or two best girlfriends, I would choose the sitting round, intimate, sitting around a table with a bottle of wine with two of my best friends over a massive party any day. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it completely depends. It depends on so many of kind of what's going on in my life. You know, if I haven't been in a big group and I've done a lot of kind of time on my, quiet time for a long time, then yes, I'm ready for a big party and I'm really up for it and amazing. But if that happens too often, I don't, I want to just sit down and have something a bit more intimate. So I've just come back from 5 days in Ibiza with a villa full of friends. It was absolutely wonderful. It was really special, but it was full on. And we all actually on the Sunday were like, all of us like, right, I've run out of words now.
See you later.
My social battery is dead. And yeah, that was enough. That was enough for me. And there were moments where obviously you could take yourself away and have a bit of a quieter moment. But at the same time, I absolutely loved it. I loved it, and it was great. And it was a big party for a lot of it, but there was also a lot of sitting down, lots of wonderful deep chats, and a lot of silliness. So that was great. But if you told me that I needed to do that again this weekend, I would go, no, thank you. I'm done. I'm done. I need to go and hibernate for a little while. So I think it's about really listening to what works for you. And for some people though, and we had this conversation actually anyway when we were away. For some people, they really get their energy from just being around people all of the time, and
Mm.
it fills them up. And for me, it's the opposite.
No.
I enjoy it, but actually it does, I need to then go and have some quiet time so I can recharge.
Yeah.
So it really is, I think, such, as you say, it really is an individualized thing.
Yeah.
And fun, I think, I mean, on the subject of fun, I do think, and I agree with what Mel Robbins was saying on her podcast about this, is that a lot of us take life very seriously.
Yeah.
The older we get, the more responsibilities we have. We take everything quite seriously. So it's important to inject some level of fun
Yeah.
into every day, and however that is for you. So whatever
Exactly.
fun is for you,
Yeah.
just to make it a little more lighthearted and to make a game out of things, and it's and just have a bit of a giggle, because actually life is too serious sometimes. So
Yeah.
I think that's important to remember. Just
Yeah.
be a little bit more lighthearted, and there's always those friends who kind of take the piss. I mean, I'm always the butt of all jokes, but normally, someone will take me taking the piss out of you, but that's fine. I'm happy with that. It's because it's lighthearted banter, and it's
Yeah.
it's all good. So yeah, I think that's an important thing to remember. Life can be very serious, and there's an
Yeah.
awful lot of serious things going on in the world. But let's not take ourselves too seriously, and let's just try and inject a bit of lightness and fun and laughter, because it
Yeah.
feels so good to
Yeah.
laugh. Those
Oh
proper
God, yeah.
belly laughs. It's nothing
Oh yeah.
better, is there?
I couldn't agree more. There is literally nothing better than that feeling where, and actually, this doesn't happen very often to me. That's not to say that I don't laugh a lot, because I do. But what doesn't happen very often is that laughter where you are crying. There are
Hmm.
tears running down your face because something is just so hilarious. And I don't know about you, but I find that's actually quite unusual for me to get to that point where, and I don't know, it's because it's so random. It can just be a ridiculous conversation with a friend that can just make me absolutely pee myself. And as Mel Robbins pointed out, like laughter is the best medicine, and injecting fun and also it's about joy. And you and I have talked about this many times on Monday Motivation. Is how incredibly important it is to cultivate joy in our days, and actually that fun, that joy can be something as simple as you know, putting on a song that makes you feel really good. You don't have, and I think what I wanted to sort of speak to in this a bit was it doesn't have, you don't have to be surrounded by people in a fancy dress costume to
No.
feel good and have fun.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you can feel good and you can inject that fun into your day by just putting on a song that makes you feel really high. This has just made me think of something, right? So one, and speaking of like, forced fun, because to me there is nothing worse than forced fun.
No.
And to me, when I think of forced fun, I immediately think of hen dos. Literally nightmare, cannot bear it. Fucking hate hen dos. If I ever got married, which let's face it is unlikely, but if I did, no way will I have a hen do and make people wear penises on their heads. I literally cannot bear it. Forced fun to me is the most cringy thing. And actually, this is kind of what the point that I wanted to make is that fun in the sort of traditional sense of the word, something like a hen do, or the other thing that is my idea of absolute hell is, and thank God I don't have to do these things anymore, but there were a few occasions in my previous working life where I was working, in the corporate world and I was working in office, da 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 da. And occasionally there would be an email that would go around saying, what would it say? Something like staff staff day out, and my heart would sink because for me there is nothing worse than being made to spend a day in a park with a load of people I work in the office with, playing rounders or doing some quote fun game. I just like, but maybe you love that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just really really dull, but that kind of fun to me is literally the opposite of fun. I remember one time we had a thing in, I can't even remember. I was working at the BBC, but it wasn't a Radio 2 at that point. I was working in another department and we had like a fun day out, a staff day out, woohoo! And it was in the summer. And I remember we went to Regent's Park and literally had to play rounders. And I was just like, dear God, please make this end. But that's just not my cup of tea. It's just not my cup of tea. I cannot stand team sports. I hated them at school. I was never competitive. I couldn't bear it. Like I just I love working out. I love exercising. I love movement, but team sports are literally my idea of hell. And in a kind of a work day out setting, even worse. Just give me a pen to just poke my eye out with. What are your thoughts, Polly?
I will only ever recommend brands that I know, love, and use myself. And one of those is Ancient and Brave. Honestly, they've become part of my daily habits. The very first thing I do every morning is pour myself a big glass of water with their true hydration in it. It feels like such a simple ritual, but it really sets me up for the day. And I know I'm properly rehydrating with their blend of electrolytes and minerals, especially before I exercise, which I always do in the morning. Then later on, when I make my coffee, I stir in their true collagen powder into the coffee. Now, it blends in straight away, no fuss, there's no taste, and collagen is something we naturally lose as we age, but it's so important for our skin, joints, and overall vitality. Now, I'll be honest, Ancient and Brave may cost a little more than some of the tubs you'll spot on supermarket shelves, but the difference is you're getting the highest quality ingredients, sourced with integrity and tested to a higher standard, and absolutely no nasties added. That's why I trust them and why I think they're worth every penny. And because I want you to be able to try them out for yourself, I've got a special offer for you. As a listener of this podcast, you can get 20% off your very first order. All you need to do is click the link in the show notes and pop in the code POLYW20 at checkout. They've got more than just collagen and hydration too. They've got creatine, they've got blends, supplements. So it's a perfect chance to explore their range and make the most of that 20% off.
Well, Lucy, we are so different because I love a team sport.
Oh my
I'm,
God.
I am highly competitive, and actually, it always surprises me because I don't think I am, and then suddenly this
It comes out.
competitive person just comes out, and I'm like, right, come on, we're going to win this. So yeah, I am competitive. I did once do I actually did a really great when I was working. Gosh, this is a million years ago. I worked in public relations, and we went and did. It was a few days away. It was like one of these team building few days away, and I absolutely loved it. And
Oh,
we ended up doing orienteering. We went down into potholes and all sorts. But I've learned so much about myself then, because actually I became a bit of a leader. Like I became the like, come on, guys. I was in my element. So yeah, again,
oh my God.
we're totally different camps, and I
Can I,
actually really
was
enjoyed
that,
that.
did you say that was a 3 day away day?
Yes, yes. I
Literally,
mean
that
that.
just,
I don't know if
oh,
anyone does that anymore, but that was yeah, it was about a 3 day away day, which is quite
oh,
unusual.
I would have had to have found an excuse to get out of that. I literally, that is my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
That's even more of a worst nightmare to me than a hen do. A 3 day team away day, just playing, going potholing.
Yes, yeah. Well, anyway,
Kill me now.
I actually really enjoyed that. So yeah, so again, it's like different people like different things,
Yeah,
and yeah, I mean, I don't know. You've just got to find what works for you, and none of it should really be compulsory if you really don't want to do it.
yeah.
So Giles, for his work, they have done something for years, which they call their Dora Days, and Dora, DORA spells day stands for day out of the office researching anything. So they do it every quarter, and they go and do sort of blue sky thinking, and someone has to research paper on something big, and it's really good, really good and interesting. But they take it in turns to organize something for them to do. So they go off and do all sorts of kind of things. So that would be your idea of nightmare. But
Completely.
actually, it's good for generally. It's meant to be quite good for team morale and building and bonding, and
Yeah,
you know,
it's reminded me of something that we did at Radio 2. We had a Radio 2 away day, which was the whole of Radio 2, all of us. We went to it was in Maida Vale Studios in London in this massive great studio. And there were like lots of round tables, split into teams. Oh, and then you had to do things like I can't remember exactly, but there were various exercises where you'd have to do something, and then one person would have to stand up and like represent the table. and this just went on all day, and there was like a lunch break, and again, that to me is my idea of hell. But yeah, it really, fun is different for everyone.
I'll tell you what fun I really do love, and which I feel all of us probably could do more. This is playing
Yeah.
games with each other. So as a family, we've always really loved doing games. And actually, when it was lockdown, the five of us in our house, and we took it in turns to make up a different game each day. And I think it was whoever lost the game had to think of the game for the next day. But they were ridiculous. I mean, they could be any sort of game. There was quite a lot of sort of assault course out in our very tiny little garden, or it could have been like putting ping pong in a cup or whatever. But that kind of kept us going. It was really good fun. And at Christmas, we've always played games, with the wider family. And I just think there's such a great way just to get everyone involved
Yeah.
and just again just be really silly and have a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, it reminds me, we used to play, well, various games, but I remember particularly Monopoly. Used to love Monopoly, and then Trivial Pursuit because I remember, I can't believe we're going on to talk about board games. I remember when Trivial Pursuit first came out. That was in our lifetime, wasn't it? When Trivial
Yes,
Pursuit was
yes. It
invented.
was bloody difficult.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed that. And actually this Christmas just gone, we played Scrabble. I hadn't played Scrabble for ages. But yeah, I completely agree. That is a really nice way, especially at something like Christmas when you're with your family. It's just a nice way of everyone kind of being together and doing something together. Um, so yes, well, there's our little conversation about fun. Clearly, Polly and I have very different ideas of what fun actually is. Was there anything else
Oh.
you wanted to add, love?
Um, no, I think that's it for today. I
I
mean, I
think you
think
might.
ultimately to wrap up, ultimately, as we have demonstrated this morning, is that everybody has their own idea of fun, and that's okay. That's all right. Let's just, do you, and that's right. And if you don't want to do something, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Say no.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this might be our most random Thursday thoughts yet. What do you reckon?
It's quite random. It is quite
How did it
random.
come to this?
So if
Sorry.
anyone's got to this point, well done. I'm impressed.
All right, love. We'll be back next week. God
Um,
knows what will happen in terms of the Instagram live. But as Polly
yeah,
and I were just saying before, at least the one good thing about doing it on Zoom is the sound will be better because we're both using our mics, so it will
yes,
sound better than it normally does on
yeah,
Instagram Live.
yeah.
But we hope
All
there
right.
was something interesting in this conversation, this
Yes,
very random conversation. Um,
exactly.
we'll
All
see
right,
you next
love.
week.
Okay. All right.
All right, babe. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.
Is so key, and which is why those practices, meditation, breath work, whatever you choose to do, are so important because it builds that muscle.
Yeah.
I mean, interoception is such an interesting thing. It's kind of lit.
Interoception.
It's called, yeah. So it's called interoception, and it
What's that?
basically means listening, is strengthening and listening to the signals within your body. So
Interoception.
interoception. So basically, if you do any sort of practice where you're doing a progressive muscle relaxation in your body, you're going through your body, you're just trying to relax your muscles. And actually, it's amazing if you shut your eyes and you go through your body, like, okay, I'm just going to relax my fingers. But immediately you feel a little tingling on your fingers where where your focus goes, the energy flows. You feel it. You feel that energy moving through your body. Then you focus on your shoulders. You might notice it there. That is building something called interoception, which is really key because we have these signals throughout our body, but we don't tune in and listen. So anything like that, I mean, that's how I always start my breathwork sessions, with something, whether that's just sensing your heart beating in your chest, whether that is following your breath, whether that is squeezing all your muscles and then relaxing them. They're all practices to help you go internal, to go within, and it
Right.
builds that muscle. And that is such a powerful thing to do to build your intuition.
So interesting. I don't think I've ever heard that word interoception.
Yes.
But it's, yeah, so interesting. And like you so rightly say, like, meditation and breath work and those kinds of things, I think it always comes back down to our very, very favorite word of all time, which is awareness. Well, certainly mine, and I think yours too, because we always end, because it comes back to awareness. And when you do breath work and when you meditate, like, one of the best things about meditation for me has been what it's given me, this ability to become so much more aware of what's going on in my head, that I'm able to take a pause and think before I react.
Mm.
That doesn't always work. I still react, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I can't help reacting in the moment rather than responding, but it definitely makes it easier. And yeah, it is. It's like you say, it's learning to kind of trust that internal voice, and just trust that ultimately, coming back to our topic of decision making, really, whatever decision you make, just make a fucking decision, because whatever decision you make, it doesn't mean that you can't make another change. So don't be
Yeah.
afraid of making decisions. Just be more afraid of indecision, because indecision really is the thing that just
Yeah.
keeps us stuck. And ask yourself, is there a decision that I know I need to make, but I keep pushing it down? Maybe it's about a job, maybe it's about a relationship, I don't know, but is there a big decision that you need to make, but because you're scared to make that big decision, you're not making a decision, and it's been 2 years, 5 years? Just make the goddamn decision. It's
Yeah.
like, and again, even if it's a bad, quote, bad decision, it doesn't mean that it can't be undone. But the worst thing is to sit in that place where you're driving yourself crazy by not making a decision. There's nothing worse.
There is nothing worse. And I mean, there really is nothing, there is no wasted decision. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a
Yes.
wasted decision. There's only feedback, there's only information that you gather along the way, which you can then use to make your next decision. I think that's a really good way to look at it.
So true. I think this is a good place to wrap up if you're happy to.
Yeah.
By the way, can I just say to the listeners, what's actually really interesting, and maybe something we can talk about, is I have found it, I don't know about you, Polly, but it's harder to have these conversations when we're not live on Instagram. Go figure. Because there's that temptation to be like, actually, oh God, I can't think of what to say next. So isn't that an interesting thing to think about
Yeah.
in itself? I wonder whether this is something that we can. Have you found that as well?
I don't know actually if I have found that today.
I
Um,
have.
have you? That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, I haven't allowed myself to kind of let it get to me or let it stop me, but I've definitely, like, there was one moment where I was tempted to go, oh God, actually, can I just back up? Can we start that bit again?
Really? Oh no, I
Yeah.
didn't think that. I haven't felt that at all.
Isn't that
That's so
interesting?
interesting. So actually, it's good having that pressure of
Exactly.
actually it's got to be imperfect. You
Yeah,
can't worry about the perfection because it's so
exactly.
easy to do that if it's just you and me. You can just
Ex-
go, no, stop that.
exactly. And also, normally, what's weird, I mean, you and I don't edit our Monday motivations ever. We just add on our introduction and shove them out there. And it's funny because whilst we've been recording this, there's a couple of moments where I thought, oh, I might edit that out, but I'm not going to, because frankly, life's too short. We don't have time to edit this.
No.
But it's interesting that I've found myself thinking that. Anyway,
Yes.
food for thought. Well, we hope you
Yes.
guys have enjoyed this.
Yes, I
We
hope
hope it's
so. I
been,
think, yeah, hopefully
yeah,
you'll make a decision going
yes,
forwards a
yes,
little bit
exactly.
easier would be great. That's the intention.
All right, love. Well, we'll be back
All
this time
right.
next week talking about who knows what. Sending you all lots of
Perfect.
love. Speak to you
Thank you.
later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.